What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering. It's Friday. Yeah. November 17th. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Next week, I believe, is Thanksgiving week, but it should be relatively business as usual for the channel and for all of you. Here, we're going to talk a little bit about the biggest crotch in Hollywood, and that is Rachel Zegler. Just an easy person to hate. An entitled brat, and maybe, different interviews out there exist of her being authentic, likable, things of that nature. I think she might want to take a page out of the Brie Larson book, where Brie Larson essentially went on a reputation restoration tour, I believe, by starting her own YouTube channel. Now, she has since abandoned that, but it was nice to see that she was just kind of like a normal as you can get, Hollywood person. And maybe Zegler needs to do a little bit more of that instead of being such a see you next Tuesday all the time. But this weekend, we have the opening of the Hunger Games prequel. Now, the difference between the Hunger Games box office and, say, something like the Marvels, because there's going to be a lot of parallels between the two, because the Marvels came out last week and absolutely tanked. Now, this week, I think yesterday, the Hunger Games came out, and you have your choice of two women that hate you, giving your money to one of two women that hate you, or you could stay home. There's that Thanksgiving kind of like horror movie thing. Maybe that's something people want to see. I don't know. I recommend some dark Christmas comedies like Fat Man with Mel Gibson, perhaps, or Die Hard to kind of ease your way into the holiday season before, of course, running into Elf and, Christmas Vacation and things of that nature. I like to save those for late December. But I have no interest in seeing the Hunger Games. But the difference is that the Marvels had a massive budget, $300 million, meaning it has no chance whatsoever of making any money. What we know about this film is it has a much more reasonable budget. The Hunger Games does, somewhere around $100 million, I believe. So it's got a better fighting chance at, making its money back. If it's got a $100 million budget, you double it. That's $200 million to include advertising and all that stuff, which means they have to make $300 to $400 million at the total global box office to start earning money, roughly. The Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is expected to haul between $42 million and $55 million, a number that, for the Marvels, was a disastrous number. Each of the other four films in the Hunger Games franchise debuted, though, with more than $100 million. So the fourth movie is debuting with less than half of the box office numbers. Now, I do remember, to be fair, every time I say to be fair, I think a letter to be fair. But anyway, there is, there was more hype around the original Hunger Games. I think Jennifer Lawrence is a more recognizable star. People liked her better, even though she also said something totally idiotic, like she was the first female action star or something of that nature. But the prequel, the issue is the prequel to the $3 billion Hunger Games franchise, based on the 2020 novel, is set 60 years before. Now, Ballad is headed for a solid opening, likely hauling between $42 million and $55 million, according to box office analysts, as the first new entry in the Hunger Games since 2015. Disney and Marvel Studios' The Marvels significantly underperformed expectations when it debuted in theaters earlier this month. The film tallied $46 million domestically over its debut weekend, the lowest in a 30-plus year film franchise. The film had initially been slated to snag between $75 and $80 million, but those expectations shrank to $60 million and $65 million just ahead of its opening. So you have this movie, while box office analysts see $50 million opening as positive, given Hollywood's recent writers and actors strikes and the change in consumer movie-going habits, Ballad will open significantly lower than its predecessors. Each of the other four films in Hunger Games debuted with more than $100 million in ticket sales. Now, there is some interest, there is some trepidation from box office analysts on whether Ballad will be able to recapture the audiences that came out nearly a decade ago for the four previous installations. Well, it won't, because people don't like Rachel Zegler. We're talking about a prequel that doesn't have the star power its predecessors did with Jennifer Lawrence, Robin said. The fan base is a little bit older now. The young adult genre is beyond its peak of popularity more than a decade ago. Prequels are generally challenging to market outside of the established core fan base, Robin said. The biggest variable here is what portion of today's young female audience this new Hunger Games story can bring in with an all-new cast. It's going to be, I suspect it will do in the 40 millions. I think it's going to underperform even the 50 million, which again is half of what the other ones did. So far, the film has a 61% score on Rotten Tomatoes from 90 reviews, which critics asserting that the outstanding cast and exciting story make the film a worthy return of Hunger Game universe. Some, however, found the pacing of the film too rushed. Rushed? It's almost 3 hours long, bro. And the screenplay is quite faithful to Collins' novel, which has more than 500 pages. The film was also standalone with no promise for future installments. Producers of the film say that they do not plan on returning to Pan Am unless Collins writes another book. Now, I think that it says Ballad still arrives at a crucial time for Lionsgate, with the company set to split from Starz and the heels of its recent acquisition of Entertainment One from Hasbro, and for the box office opens just ahead of Disney's animated feature Wish and Apple TV's Napoleon, which are both due out next week. I thought, Napoleon was something I was kind of interested in. I think it has Joaquin Phoenix, right? But the reviews on it are very poor. And that was surprising to me. Obviously, Wish, I have no interest in a Disney animated film that probably has, propaganda sprinkled in and out of it, for little kids to try and indoctrinate them. But this is a movie that, they're desperately trying to spin as some sort of success. The fact of the matter is this movie is opening up with a massive 60% drop in box office over previous films. If you went, that's basically what happened to the Marvels, right? The only reason they're not totally panicking is because it has a relatively reasonable budget. You look at these reviews, they're not good. Rachel Zegler's Hunger Game, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, received worst critic scores of the entire franchise. So all these fluff pieces that keep saying, oh, it's, it's looking pretty good. Wrong. They're shilling. 60% is one bad review away from being rotten at 59. And by the way, if 6 out of 10 people think the film is, again, these scores are hilarious because when you look at, actual critics, like not the shills that get like early access, it has a 51%. Now, they only have 100 verified reviews, audience of 90%. These are people that screen the movie for free or early, so they all give, the whole purpose is to buy good reviews. So these early reviews are always, but you have a 51%. And you're trying to tell me it's a good movie? In comparison, The Hunger Games received an 84. Top critics clocked it in as 82 with an average of 7.2 out of 10. Then you had a 90% for The Hunger Games Catching Fire, 70% for Mockingjay Part 1, which I saw all these movies in the theater because my wife liked them. I thought they were all pretty poor. Mockingjay Part 2 also only got a 70%. So everybody liked The Hunger Games Catching Fire, but that's about it. And The Hunger Games. But the final ballad here was pretty terrible. And I don't think Jennifer Lawrence is like that great of an actress. I guess people think so and whatever. She's less insufferable than most people, I suppose. But you also see, a Metacritic, Zegler's Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is the worst performing film in the franchise with a Metascore of 52 from 32 critics. There are 14 positive reviews, 12 mixed, 6 negative. The original Hunger Games had a 68. Metacritic is, a little bit tougher, of course. All 4 previous films had opening weekends above $102 million. And this film is slated to make $50 million. This film is doomed. Again, Rachel Zegler isn't bringing all the boys to the yard. No one's going to see this movie for Rachel Zegler. I suppose maybe. Look, it could overperform. But I just think that her name is like, right up there with Carrot Top as box office poison. Hunger Games leads a slew of new box office newcomers that will likely bury the Marvels. Do you think so? You know, if it was bad enough that the Marvels will suffer a Marvel Cinematic Universe franchise low of 46 million amidst fan reception that was mildly positive at best, it's likely to get worse this weekend as a slew of new pre-Thanksgiving newcomers led by the return of the Hunger Games will peel away much of the lingering interest in the Marvel film among casual moviegoers. Casual moviegoers are the ones that truly have, you know, abandoned these movies. You see even Forbes, Hunger Games prequel faces worst for average review ahead of $50 million opening. I mean, why would you go see this movie? And, you know, I don't know, weirdos want to see, I mean, I don't want to see a musical and there's like 6 songs in this movie. I guess there's like a place for songs in movies and some people like them. I can't just say they're out of pocket, all terrible. But you see, you know, the 6, Rachel Zegler singing, no thanks. Film analysts consider a $50 million opening a solid start for the film, which was produced on a $100 million budget, according to CNBC. It would make it the 17th biggest debut this year. 17th? Well, there's a 17th place? They're all trying to spin this as like, well, you know, I guess it opened up as half as much as the other one, even though it costs more than ever to go to the movies. Somehow that's a good thing. The Daily Beast, which is a leftist outlet, Nick Shager called the new Hunger Games film bland, and he considered it worse than terrible. I mean, this film is a big yikes. I actually think it's going to underperform. My prediction will be somewhere around 40 to 45 million. And again, this needs to make 250 to 300 million just to break even. I'm loving that that people are just rejecting this derivative tripe from Hollywood. Make something new, make something interesting, and we'll go see it. Otherwise, don't even bother.